Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Welcome to Kardec Radio, where you nourish your soul daily. As you wait for our next program on the way to the light, visit Kardec Publisher at kardecpublisher.com to check out our latest books. Also, check out our Kardec Flicks, Spiritism in a Click. Just go to kardecflix.com. And now with you, our host, Angy Stewart, with the program On the Way to the Light. Enjoy it.
Hello, my friends. Good evening. This is Thursday, 9:04, and we are here live on Kardec Radio. I am in Miami right now, and the Kardec Radio gives us these opportunities to connect with friends in many different states and sometimes even in different countries. So super happy to be here back with you guys. So for a couple months, I had all kinds of different issues, but now I'm back, and hopefully we are going back to our normal setup. That's once a month and on Thursdays, and usually the first Thursday of the month. So just to record to the ones that haven't been here in a while, this is the book that we always study, On the Way to the Light. On the Way to the Light is an amazing book written by the spirit of Emmanuel, by the mediumship of Chico Xavier. So we are on chapter 9. We are still in the beginning of the book. Amazing book. It tells us the whole history of our planet, our civilization. So it starts telling us how we started, how the planet was actually created. So it's amazing. We have all the recordings. You can go back, see all the videos, and then you can start understanding how it was created, who created this. So it was our governor, our Christ, Jesus. And now, today, we are on the chapter 9. We are going to be studying the great civilizations, the great religions from the past. And usually in the last 10 minutes, we study this book. This book is What is Spiritism? It's very thin. You see, Kardec wrote the very big, large books, that the Spirit's book, Medium's book, the whole codification. They are very thick books. But this is like a summary. It's supposed to be a conversation that Kardec have with different people, and these people ask him questions and he answers. So this we do in the last 10 minutes of this program. So I just wanted to invite you to a quick prayer. And if you have your water bottle, put there. So your water bottle will be your water, your blessed water for the rest of the week until it's almost finishing. Then you can replace with water, do a prayer, and ask the good spirits to put new fluid for you, for new good blessings, so that your water will be fluidified one more time. So let's go. Close your eyes. You are in front of a computer. Let's relax. So at this moment, we would like to elevate our thoughts, and ask dear God to be close to us, send the enlightened spirits to inspire all of us, myself and my two guests for tonight, so we can be well inspired, well connected, so this program can bring good ideas, good fluids, and especially good reflections to all of us, to the ones that will be with us live and to the ones that will be listening later on. Thank you. So be it. Very good, my friend. So as you see, I'm a very sportwear today. I play pickleball on Thursday, so I came running, biking like a maniac, and I rushed upstairs, picked up my computer, and boom, I'm here. I'm here. The important thing is the program. Then I take a shower. So tonight I have two guests. One of them you have met many times. So I will invite him to talk to us for a little bit. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hello, Angela. How are you? I'm very well, thank you. I'm,
I'm
I'm
glad to have you here. Thank you
I,
again for accepting the invitation.
you know, I will always do what I can to support you and Spiritism.
Yes, you are awesome. So, Mark, to the ones that don't know you, can you tell us really quickly
Sure.
where you are and how we end up meeting or how you discover Mia in your light?
So, 9 years ago, Spiritism found me here in Northern California in the capital of Sacramento. I began in 2017, just beginning studies as a lifetime Christian and raised a Catholic, lifetime Christian. And so many things were simply in alignment, and I was motivated to dig deeper. And along the way, I got the opportunity to do some travel. And one of the first things I did is I traveled to a national conference, and it was in Florida. And I met some fantastic people, including you. And then the next year in Houston as well, and then in Portland. So I started traveling wherever Spiritism took me. And in 2023, it actually took me to Brazil, which was a amazing spiritual experience. I came back and moved to Florida, southern Florida, became a member of Angy's Mia Inner Light Spiritist Center, actively participating in person as well as online when that was the necessity. And that's how I actually conduct myself today. I'm an active member in 2 or 3 different groups. I support everything that Kardec Radio is doing, and most of the Spiritist centers that reach out to me to either present or attend, I'm always there. I will drop whatever I'm doing. The beauty of being retired is making your own schedules.
You are great. You are great. Thank you so much for the support as always. I can see our next guest is here. I hope
Hey.
she's good. Let me see. Hey, Mary. Were you able to arrive home?
No.
Guys, I am so sorry. I have to apologize. I'm in the middle of the street. I have a special need granddaughter, and they decided to have a birthday surprise for her like last minute, and she's very attached to me. I'm standing across the street waiting for her to get here. So
Oh my
if
God.
I could speak first, because I was so touched that you invited me to be here. I feel so special that, for the opportunity and all. But it was really out of my control. But
Oh my God. So
I'm
you didn't even go to the party yet. You're still waiting for it.
it's across the street. I'm waiting for her to walk in. She is 20. She's turning 22 today, but she's like 12. So
Yeah.
she cries and
Mary,
Yes, yes.
Mary,
Ah, it's
perhaps
okay. It's okay,
perhaps the
Mary.
only perhaps the only higher priority in life is family.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you're going to do an amazing job, Mark. I met you. I mean, you have a lot of knowledge. And I just want to share something before I go, if I may.
Sure.
I am I am really, really excited that you invited me because this book is amazing. I have to say that about this book. It's one of the very first books I read when I started studying Spiritism back in Brazil. And I read it. I never got the chance to study it. And I was inspired by this invitation, and I read everything, the pages that we're going to be talking about, well, that I was supposed to be talking about tonight. And it really inspired me to study the book. I'm going to start a study group. Angie, if you do one, I will attend because I really want to dive deep into this book because it is an amazing book.
Yes, it is. It is amazing. So it's great that you're going to do a study book on it. It's really super, super special book. I read this many, many years ago,
Yeah.
and then when I finished my last book, I was like, I already know which one I want to start again. That's very,
Right?
very good.
Yes. It's a very complex book, but it's amazing. And it's not a book that you read. You need to study it. And if you study it in a group, it's amazing because everybody gets their point of view. Everybody sees a different thing. It's a whole different ball game than just reading. I mean, any book, but especially this one.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Very good, Mary. Thank you so much. Too bad that you have to go.
Thank
Ah,
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I apologize to you and the viewers. I hope to be back here soon.
very good. Thank you so much. See
Take
you
care,
Bye.
Mary.
soon.
Bye, Mark.
Take care, Mary.
Thank you. Bye bye.
So, as I always start, so what I do is I read just the beginning of the chapter and then we start commenting. So, the title of our chapter is chapter number 9. Wait, I picked up the wrong book. It helps if I get the correct one. So, number 9, the great religions of the past. The first religious organizations, Earth's first religious organizations, of course, had their beginnings among the earthly people of the East, to whom Jesus sent his messengers and missionaries periodically. Since there was no writing in those remote times, all the religious traditions were transmitted orally from generation to generation. However, with the help of the exiled spirits from Capella system, the rudiments of the graphic arts received the first impulses and new age of spiritual understanding began to flourish in the area of religious concepts. So, such a short paragraph, but it tells so much. I just want to say hello, Juancito. Nice to have you here. Juan came this week to the center. We were commenting a great movie, by the way. In the center, every 2 months we watch a movie and we study together. And this month, the name of the movie was I Origins. Very interesting movie. Very interesting. I like to study any kind of a spiritual movie, not necessarily the amazing Brazilian ones, but even the Hollywood ones. So we get connected, we get together, and then we discuss, okay, what is really similar to Spiritism, what is like Hollywood exaggeration, and this one was very good, and I had a little bit that was not exactly like we study, like we understand it's supposed to be, but we get the message that the science is getting closer to spirituality. So one day there is a hope that science will actually understand how to connect with this spirituality. So if you haven't watched, watch I Origins. But now coming back here. So Mark, this first paragraph, it basically tells us that Jesus, as our governor, keeps sending enlightened spirits to earth from time to time to help the spirits that were already living on earth and the ones that came from Capella. If you haven't read the previous chapters, we talk about the civilizations from Capella, an enlightened star that was evolving like Earth is doing right now, and all the super intelligent spirits that were not very morally evolved, the hard-head ones, they had to be shipped to another planet less evolved, where they would be forced to live, and they would mingle with spirits that were much less evolved than them. And through this pain for them, because they were very intellectual spirits, but not morally advanced, they would be able to evolve as well. So when we see here in the first this first paragraph, it talks about that in that time there was just rudiments of a written. So it's like when we think about the movies of Jesus, we see that most of the Israelites from the time, the Hebrew population, everything they did was through conversations. They had conversations. They didn't have a lot of writing. So when we go even more backwards, imagine 6,000, 8,000 years ago, then you can imagine that the written knowledge was very limited. We always read and study about the paintings inside the caves, but they were paintings, not writings. So basically, that's what the book is telling us, that these emissaries, they were sent to help to be a speed up in the writing as well, not just the talking knowledge like it was in the past. Like whatever happened to me, I talk to my kids, the kids talk and tell and teach to verbal to their own kids, and the knowledge start passing. But then I think about that game, Telephone Without Line, that every time you say something to someone, the person increases something or cuts something. That's why this was never the best way of knowledge. So what do you want to add, Mark? We still have like all the information about the Vedas and the Sastras.
Well, what is always surprising to me is how easily we forget that one of the core principles of Spiritism is that human beings learn what they're meant to learn when they're meant to learn it. And so if you think about the evolution of humanity, no matter where on the earth, they were at various levels of their evolution. And the ability in the earliest of human realities, there was only verbal communication. The concept of writing anything was not there. In fact, if you really think about the cavemen, you know, their grunts and their rocks hitting other rocks and wooden mallets hitting rocks. That's how they communicated. That was the earliest forms of communication. Well, the point here is that the governor of the planet, Jesus, continued to send these emissaries, going all the way back to Capella, and brought them to different places on the planet. Some of them landed in the desert, some of them landed in the mountains, some of them landed near the oceans, etc., etc. Some in what we now call Asia, some in what we now call the Middle East, some in what we now call South America, whatever. Various places all around the globe at various times, because humanity was slowly learning how to learn to be humans. That involves not only how to grow plants and vegetables, but kill animals, clean them, cook them in order to sustain life. So the evolution of humanity is what's going on here. And at various stages, 2,000-3,000 years before Christ, which is what we're talking about right now in this first chapter, they were the principles of biblical statements were not there yet. Whatever did get communicated was some pretty basic stuff, like, treat everybody nicely, or you're not going to be treated nicely yourself. Do unto others, the golden rule. Well, that appears in all kinds of historical documents. All kinds of historical documents, from the earliest of religions, from the earliest of the actual writings, are these Jesus principles, even before Jesus arrived. So I just find that fascinating, that, the whole legacy of our planet is traced to this principle of we learn what we're meant to learn when we're meant to learn it.
Yeah.
Even today.
And then they mentioned that in that time, people that were able to talk well and had a great memory, they were the philosophers of the time. Because if you have a good memory to keep the understanding, and you are a person that knows how to talk well, because we know nowadays a lot of people, they have a lot of knowledge, but they are not good speakers. They have a very hard time, or they are very shy, or they are not shy, but when they talk, they cannot explain what they know. So you have to have also these gifts to be able to be a good teacher from the past. And then when the written knowledge arrived, and they say in the book, the knowledge of the writing came with these emissaries that were sent to Earth to help the population, as well with the population from Capella, because they were much more evolved. So they had the understanding. So when they saw the drawings, they're like, ha, 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 nah, we can do better than here. Let me teach you how to do it. And basically that's what they say, that they were able to bring this knowledge. And this was the purpose why the people from Capella went there. They went there because they were so much mentally, intellectually advanced, but they were like, I can kill you, like you don't say what I like, I kill you, and that's okay. That was their problem. So they had to learn all this moral improvement that they didn't have. So here, in the other point, they say, the Emmanuel tells us that the Vedas is a different civilization, or a different school, religious school. So the Vedas, which are more than 6,000 years old, so 6,000 years old, they already spoke about the wisdom of the sastras. And then it mentions that the sastras, they were the great masters of Hindu knowledge that were 2,000 years before them. So do the math. 8,000 years. So who were the sastras? Sastras were those emissaries, were those spirits that came in the beginning when the civilization 8,000 years ago. It's rudimentary. It's still learning how to be more civilized, not to look at you, don't like it, kill you. So we were still in the beginnings of learning, but they were much, much more advanced in that time. So very, very interesting when we think about that. So then we move on. We move on to the title is more on the Adamic races. So this is already the second point of the study. So the first point is just giving us this understanding of the first civilizations, the first intellectual religions, how the written knowledge came to earth. And now we go to the Adamic races. So the first thing they say is, we must not forget, however, that Jesus had brought together in infinite space the prescribed beings that had been banished to earth before their incarnation in the neighborhood of the high plains of Iran and Pamir. So interesting. Pamir are the gigantic mountains near India. So that's where they incarnated. This first civilizations incarnated in Iran and Pamir. And to the ones that participated before in the other chapters, Jesus was the one who received those spirits. So Jesus basically told all of them, life here is not going to be easy. It's going to be a little tough. I'm already letting you know. But I will be always with you. I will be always supporting, guiding, helping. So these civilizations, they had this direct contact with Jesus, and they felt this love and this presence, this energy, and that they kept imprint in their perispirit, this understanding that they need that. They left Capella, and now they are coming to this world that's so much less evolved. It's almost like for the people that didn't read the previous chapters, it's more or less like we are here now. We are in a technological world. Our phones, they are basic a computer in our hands, and suddenly we go to a place that people don't even have a typing machine. They don't even know what it is. Like, they only have a paper and pen, and in reality they didn't even have, they had stones. So it is difficult. Imagine if we remember we had access to some things that's so much faster, so much more modern, and suddenly we wake up in this back to the past reality that nothing of this is available. But we know it existed. We just like, it's crazy. What happened to me? And that's more or less what was happening to them. So what else do you think we can talk about this faith they describe in the book?
I think there's another word in that same sentence that I think is important, and it's intuition. So once they were communicated to as to, the principles of living, shall we say, if we just think about the golden rule, however that was communicated, it became through the subsequent generations, intuitive. They didn't have to constantly, remind themselves or others remind them. You have to care, be disciplined in how you interact with other humans. You're not better than the other human. And it became very much intuitive. I think also as humanity evolved, we have the different male and female evolutions taking place. And you have this female intuition of, certainly their family, their children, their man, whatever the case may be. And that intuition oftentimes drove a lot of morality. That, she would teach the children, don't do that. This is what happens that, will cause you pain. And to tell the children that before they experience the pain, And so I think the evolution of humanity goes right along, and as that word is pointed out in that very same sentence, the evolution of intuition, right along with faith.
Yeah, it's great to talk about that because it is true. Until nowadays, the spirits tell us that in this lifetime, I am a female and you are a male. But we know the spirit doesn't have sex. It can incarnate as a man, as a woman. Because we need to learn the characteristic of both. And as you mentioned, women, because women are the ones who get pregnant, who have to keep the baby for 9 months, they develop this nurture, this love, there is something inside of her that's growing, and that little being will depend on her to be able to survive. So because of the female characteristics, that's why women are more, they have a tendency to be more loving, more nurture, more patient with the kids. And men usually are bigger, physically talk, bigger, stronger, since the beginning, because man was created to be the protector. So man was supposed not to be the boss, the instigator of the women, but to be the ones defending the family clan, defending their wives, their kids. And throughout the years, that's how it was supposed to be. But we see history, and we see how men end up oppressing women. And until nowadays, in some countries, women cannot do so many things. They first depending on their father, and after they left the father, the husband. And if they didn't get married, the brother. So they couldn't respond for themselves. So even voting.
And it's also interesting to think of evolution of mankind, of humanity, in terms of what was absolutely taboo to even think about 100 years ago is commonplace today. So you have interracial marriages and interracial families, and how tolerance and acceptance and a loving nature, as long as people are following Christ's laws, as long as people are doing it properly, there's nothing to complain about. And I find that really fascinating, that it's only within the last 100 years that we've really had the true acceptance of interracial marriages.
Yeah. No, and good that you mentioned that. It's not we are talking of things 6,000, 8,000 years ago, but when we talk about what you just said, it's so recent. It's from our generation. Martin Luther King, in our generation. and just to see like how things take such a long time to change. In the United States, there were laws that prohibited blacks and whites to get married. So it's not that it was bad sin, it was prohibited. In Louisiana, it was prohibited. So there is a movie that's a real story that tells the story of this man who fell in love with this black woman, and they got married, and they had to run away from their city and then their state because they put him in jail. They put both in jail. And I was like, what? I didn't know that was prohibited. I know that was prejudicial, but not like that. But thank God we are evolving and things are changing. So every time people say, oh, everything is horrible, we are not evolving. No, we are evolving. We are evolving. It's just that we wish it was evolving so much faster. But it's slow, but we are evolving. Thank God. Nowadays, women can be presidents, and so things are so much better, so much better. So when we go to the next step, the next title is the genesis of religious belief. So this is like a chapter that gives us an idea why this belief in religion is almost like imprint on us. And that's when they explain that we were created with the understanding deep inside there is something bigger than us, that there is something much more important. So that's why every human being have that seed of an understanding of God. But if you call God Mohammed, if you call God whatever name, that's fine. But there is something bigger than us that created the trees, the river, the perfection of the body, the beauty of so many animals. And yes, there are a lot of people that do not believe in God, but the spirits say it's because they have something within them, maybe in a previous life, or something that traumatized them, and they reincarnated not wishing to accept any of this. We are not even talking about religions, because we know how much religions killed. Catholics killing Protestants, Protestant killing Catholics throughout history. It unfortunately it was like this for such a long time. But then they again mention all these missionaries from the past, and there is this portion here that's very interesting that talks about the history of China, Persia, Egypt, and India, of Arabs, Israelites, Celts, Greeks, and Romans, is illumined by the light of his powerful emissaries. And many of them were so successful in the fulfillment of the grand and blessed duties that they were mistaken for the Lord himself in successive periodic reincarnations of his divine love. In the Manavadharma, we find the lesson of the Christ. In China, we find Pohi, Lao-Tse, and Confucius. In the beliefs of Tibet, it is Buddha, and in the Pentateuch is Moses. In the Quran, we see Mohammed. So this is all the emissaries that were sent to different parts of the planet, that if they never heard of Jesus himself, they heard of the teachings throughout one of these enlightened spirits that came to earth. My goodness, I could live in the past and I would be a great communicator. I can talk without stopping. I need to allow you to talk.
I would just add this. One of the presentations I did last year was about the law of progress. And I did this chart, a time chart, a timeline on the history of humanity. And I put these same religions as to when was Confucius, when were these different religions formed, when were the emissaries present on the globe, and so on. And then I did two more things. I laid in when there were huge amounts of deaths associated with natural disasters or famines or plagues or whatever, and wars. Like from the time of Genghis Khan, from the time of the Roman Crusades, and so on. And it's interesting that we think of today as being progress from those early days. Well, look what's going on in the world right now in the last 10 years. We've had multiple plagues around the globe. We have multiple wars, but we are still progressing, aren't we?
Yes. And the spirits say that every time there is a natural disaster, a natural catastrophe, they always say that the spirits that actually die, they actually discarnate, is because their time had arrived and they would have to die anyway in order to make the progress faster. I know for us, it's like, what?
I know, because we see the film of Venezuela. You see the high-rise apartments crumbling. And, they're talking about thousands of people dying in that earthquake, in those two earthquakes. But I mean, we're kind of just mystified by it all. That's the spiritual explanation. It's their time.
Yes. For us, it's always difficult because we see death, we see pain, and we are like, these poor people, they die. This is terrific. But what the spirits, they always say is that we only see one portion. God sees the big picture. So God doesn't see this one life. God sees all the lives. And then we think, oh, but these poor people, they died. So this person was such a wonderful person. So she died in the earthquake, means that she was bad, so she had to be removed. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. As we say, sometimes her period of suffering, of pain, finished. So now she was taking from that difficult. And then when she comes back, she will reincarnate in a much better way. So as we always say, we only see one little thing. It's almost like the elephant is here, and you see the front. If someone asks me to describe the elephant, I'm gonna say something very, very different than you, because you see the front of the elephant. I see the side, so don't say the back. But God sees from the top. So God sees you in the front, see me on the side. So he understands the whole picture. So that's what happened to us. And when these tragedies happen, a huge portion of the population that never thought about anything gets connected to help. So here in Miami, I see hundreds of people, all my groups in WhatsApp, Facebook, YouTube. It's everybody getting together, collecting donations, creating forces to help, creating ways to send money, purchase food, airplanes that are going. I'm organizing a group to go volunteering next Friday. So there is a lot of goodness that comes from pain. And as the Spirit say, many times we don't take action if it's not because of pain. We just stay calm,
Yeah.
sitting on our living room watching TV. And then when something happens, touches our core, and then we take action, and we do something. So Juan sent a message here. So Juan said, the Capella exiles were very intelligent but morally deficient, which is why every group was given a guide to help them spiritually. Those in India got Krishna, China, Nepal got Buddha, the Greeks got Socrates, and the Hebrews got Moses. Yes, very good. Very good.
One.
That's a thank you for summarizing. Yes, that's it. And as we always say, for a good building to be built, it needs a very solid basement. So that's what Jesus said. Start sending all these emissaries to different locations on earth, because people start being touched by the teachings. And as the book said, some of the emissaries were so amazing that the people thought he was the governor itself, because the message was so pure and sublime and beautiful. But the Jesus came later on. Later on, Jesus came to give his own example. And with this, we jump to the substantial unity of all religions. And then we are going to move to gradated revelations. So what do you want to add, Mark? Before I start talking without stopping, I'm going to allow you to, to go ahead.
Well, I remember when I read this chapter the first time, I thought about one thing, and then I read it this time and I think it again. And that is this statement that each emissary brought one modality of the great lesson that would be played out in the humble region of Galilee. So all the spirits, the emissaries that came before Jesus, had one or more primary qualities. But when Jesus arrived, he brought the entire set. And the fact that the prior emissaries didn't necessarily have the benefit of written communication. They had only verbal communication. The writings came later. So when you think about some of the, especially coming out of India, because that's the oldest, when you think about how much was lost in translation, how much was lost in translation? Is it possible that those first ones had maybe 50% of what Jesus had, but all that ever was recorded was 10%? Who knows? It was just this evolution of mankind slowly.
Yes, what the Spirit said is that it was an advance when the Israelites, the Hebrews, they believed in only one God. So this was an advance, because most of the civilizations, including the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, they had many gods, many different gods, one God to each thing. And the Hebrews understood that was only one God. So they were more involved in this sense. But with the time passing through, this became a problem. That's when the religion became a problem. Not religiosity, but religion. Because we as human beings, we started, if you don't believe in my God, that's suppose Mohammed. If you don't believe in Mohammed, you are not a good person. You should be burned. Or if you don't believe in Jesus, you should be burned. Oh no, the correct one is Buddha. So instead of us understanding one God, one enlightened spirit, doesn't matter how you understand or how you call God, instead of making us united, it divided. That's when all the problems of the Catholics against the Protestants, they were the biggest deaths, the biggest killings happened between these two. But in the past, even before, were the Catholics killing all the morals, the ones that from Spain, that when they were being exterminated, and the Catholics were invading and killing everyone, as well as in the past, the religion was pretty much connected with power of the kings, and so yes, difficult people we are. Instead of being together, that's when we start killing the ones that don't believe in the same. So this is the difficult part, that we still have this problem nowadays. We still
Yes, we do.
continue. We
Yes,
are getting much better with interracial marriages. We are accepting different type of sexuality as well, the LGBT. But religion seems that is still something very, very difficult. And because of this, that's I connected so much with Spiritism, because the Spiritism, it's very much connected with science. They always tell us this is what the spirits told us. But if science proves something different, go with science. And this is great, because makes us to understand, it makes us to question. And that's another thing of the Spiritism. We can, they always tell us, do not accept anything someone tell you. Question, is this, does it make sense? Is it good for me? Is it good for somebody else? So all these items helps us in Spiritism.
when I was in Brazil, I, as you know, I visited Divaldo, and he said something I've never forgotten, and it's so real. Kardec, wrote the 5 volumes in the 1850s and 60s. Emmanuel and Chico come along in the 1900s. Divaldo and other spirits come along in the 2000s. I mean, we are evolving. We are evolving as spiritists, 170 years worth. And yet the documentation in English is still slowly coming. The documentation in Portuguese is in volume down in Brazil. And I know the intention is to get it right the first time type of thing. But boy, America needs spiritist principles.
Yes, but that's why it is so important to be able to have Kardec Radio. That's
Yes.
all in English, and a few spiritist centers in English, because it is a philosophy that is accepted, even if it's not followed, but it is accepted by most of the people in Brazil. It is in the soap operas, in the commercials, in the jokes. Even people that don't even know what is a spiritism, they make jokes about the I'm gonna see spirits, or when your next life, if you don't
Part of
pay
the culture.
attention, it's gonna be a bad one. So it is embedded in our culture. And then in America, it's something extremely new. Nobody really understands it. So it is important to have these seeds of light. So people like you that don't understand Portuguese, can learn and can talk and can also nourish their souls. So this is super important, and that's why I'm like so happy that we have this tool here, and in other centers like Mia Inner Light, that people that have difficulties, they can get help. Yes, nowadays we have tools that they can translate things faster, but it's never the same thing when you can actually talk in a language that people can understand you. So we have to continue, Mark. We have to continue. We have to move on and help our kids, other generations, to perpetuate this beautiful
Correct.
philosophy in English. So just to finalize the book, and we can go to the other book. The last point, the unparalleled Christ. That's when our Christ, that's called Jesus, and as in from this book we understood that each planet have their own Christ, and ours from the planet Earth is Jesus. But there are other planets, other constellations, they have their own Christs. And Jesus, being this most elevated soul that ever lived on earth, he did not reincarnate. He incarnated. He came here once. And he incarnated, and he gave this amazing example from birth to death. Like many of the other enlightened spirits, they were actually princes, like Buddha, even Moses. Moses was taken care by the Pharaoh. So they lived a very rich life. And then at a certain point, they gave up and they went to live with the people to learn reality. But Jesus came from the humble, being born with the animals in the manger, and he had a very humble life, never really had anything that was his own, just his clothes. And then he died in the cross in a very humble life. And he gave these examples like many of the other ones, but he lived the example so deeply that even the ones that don't follow him, if they can understand the teachings, and without prejudice, they have to admit that the teachings were really, really elevated. So what do you want to say for this last point?
I think history has shown, especially in the variety of Christian religions, history has shown the interpretation of the life of Jesus is not consistent. That the stories of the Bible, well, let's start with the basics. There's, multiple versions of the Christian Bible. Let's just start with that. And people who spend their life studying the religion, let me say that differently. People who spend their life practicing and studying a single Christian religion have a very difficult time accepting another Christian religion. Even if 99% of their points are exactly the same, the 1% is a war. That, the Lutherans will never be comfortable in a Catholic church. The Catholics will never be comfortable in a Lutheran church. There's one or two little things that are just unique. And yet, they both believe in Christ. They both raise generations of Christian children with exactly the same morality. It's very interesting to see how that evolves through time. It does not necessarily get more tolerant.
Yes, hopefully we will learn how to be tolerant, like the teachers, the good teachers that teach the little kids, you have to share, you have to share. So for us will be, you have to accept. He follows Mohammed. That's fine. That's fine. You don't need to kill him because he follows Mohammed. And Mohammed's, you don't need to kill the ones who follow a different God,
Yeah.
a different belief.
And because this chapter is the history of mankind, the history of the belief systems, it is important to note that, back in those days, it was not like it is today. Today, it's a form of, I think the phrase Americans use is character assassination. We attack the individual because they believe differently. Well, before we had written words, before we had the internet and so on, where people can voice their opinions so readily, back in those days, we were a lot more tolerant. We were less likely to call a person to task publicly, saying, you are implying that you are less than because of how you believe. You are less than me. You are less than others. That wasn't necessarily normal, as normal as it is today.
Yes. Well, as I always say, in the past, we didn't have internet like you have nowadays. Like 50 years ago, what is happening in Venezuela right now, we would discover of this many months later, sometimes years, and sometimes you wouldn't even know. But nowadays, technology makes us to discover 1 minute later. So sometimes we feel like the world is getting worse because we know details of the world. But in the past, things were happening also, and we just had no idea. So when we see nowadays certain horrific things, we think, oh God, we are getting worse. But not in general. Not in general. We are progressing. We are progressing. But we are out of a time. It's 10:05, so we have no time to do anything. Mark, could you do our final prayer, please?
Of course. Mother, Father God, we thank you for this time to dig into your words, your guidance, as the spirits have communicated, and understand deeper the history of mankind, especially when it comes to belief systems and the creation of this amazing planet and the life forms upon it. We are eternally grateful for Spiritism and the receptiveness it teaches us with open minds. Thank you, God. And thank you for this time. And so be it.
So be it. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you, everybody. Super happy to see you all of here. Just a quick last comment. So I see here Gabriella, I think it's Gabriella, sent strong minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, weak minds discuss people. Socrates, beautiful. Very, very beautiful. Thank you so much, my friends. With that, we need to close. We are super late. Mwah! See you soon.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night.